Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're going to talk about North Carolina and framing, and how some events in North Carolina may be foreshadowing a real problem for the GOP and a pretty large opportunity for the Democratic Party if they're smart enough to take it. Between January 6th and January 11th, 2,879 people left the Republican Party in North Carolina. And I don't mean they left it in their hearts. They decided they weren't going to vote that way anymore. No, they changed their registration. So the actual number is much higher than this. Now, this happens after every election to some degree, but that's a big number. That is a very large number. I want to say in North Carolina during the same period, it was like 800 for Democrats in North Carolina. I think that rural Americans are done with the strategy that the GOP tends to use to reach them, which is to scare them about tradition and how tradition might be upended. And, well, generally just treat them like they ain't that bright, you know? I think rural Americans are starting to see through that because even though we may talk slow, we might be pretty sharp at times. And as far as tradition goes, the GOP's undermined that. The whole idea behind the tradition was to preserve American values. Most of the Republican Party supported an overt authoritarian for 4 years and didn't speak out against him until it was them on the line, until his people were in the Capitol. That's when it mattered. I think that's going to have a much larger impact than the Republican Party is currently projecting. These defections from the Republican Party occurred from January 6th to January 11th. This is the period in which the Republican Party was out there talking about how sorry they were and how they were going to make it better. In the middle of the apologies, nobody cared, and they left. Which means they're up for grabs. If the Democratic Party was smart, they would understand that rural Americans are not unreachable, and most aren't unreasonable. Some are, trust me. But they can be reached. The Democratic Party doesn't really make any effort to, though. There are a whole lot of places where Democrats don't even run. They don't even run. They make no attempt to talk to rural Americans. And as surprising as it may be, a whole lot of issues that the Democratic Party champions are important to rural Americans. But they get bogged down in the culture wars, those hot-button divisive issues. Some of them the Democratic Party could leave. Some of them they can't because they're the right thing to do, regardless of whether or not they're divisive. But the opportunity is here. If Democrats want to have a very successful 2022, 2024, they might should work on figuring out how to frame social issues as kitchen table issues, because most times they're the same thing. Most times the advances that progressives want to make, they will benefit and impact rural Americans more than anybody. And it might be time to start pointing that out and start convincing them to stop voting against their own interests, because that's been a really long-running trend down here. This is the time to do it. This is the time to do it. There are already people leaving, and they're switching their party to unaffiliated. They are tired of the McConnells, of the Cruzes, of the Howleys, of the Trumps. Trump was just a symptom, and he's a symptom of the whole system. But the Democratic Party has the opportunity to reach out Anybody with progressive ideas has the opportunity to reach out to rural Americans right now. You can't wait. If you do, they will fall back into old habits. We are very much people who rely on habits. We do things the same way all the time. So if there isn't a move within the next 18 months, this opportunity will be gone. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.